Hello everybody, my name is Sojourn and welcome to another round of Unmatched After Action Reports. So I know you guys love to see Raptor games and I do love playing Raptors too. So today I have a game where the Raptors meet Achilles in Sunnydale High. So Achilles starts first and as we sort out some glitches on TTS. So anyway, I can just discuss my starting hand. Got a pretty good starting hand, two defenses. Always good for the Raptors to start with a couple of them, considering you have such limited defenses. And a clever girl. So wish to see perhaps a day remember early, but no luck for that. So I'm not that familiar going up against Achilles yet, but I think the idea should be the same. No matter what hero you are going up against Achilles, you want to deal as much damage onto Achilles as much as possible before Patroclus dies. And you want to time Patroclus' death to be around the 15 card mark. Any earlier than that, and Achilles just becomes a beast and it gets too strong. He just starts smacking you, dealing you too much damage. And if you manage to control the game such that Patroclus dies around perhaps the 15 card mark, that should be okay. It's best if you can even time it such that there are only 10 cards left in Achilles deck and you can try to dance around exhaustion and just make sure that he can't just keep up. Alright, so the thing about Raptors is that you want to bait out the card to be aware of from Achilles deck is under Achilles Helm. So you want to bait it out with Day Remembers if possible. So normally the first player would want to go in the middle. That's to avoid you to avoid having to boost to get to you. But I conveniently forgot that Achilles also has a range attack in the form of spear throw. So there is a reason why he plays Achilles all the way right here. Because that just allows him to throw a spear at this raptor. So I think what I wanted to do was to do a decoy. So placing the raptor here. After forcing Achilles or Patroclus to boost, but completely forgot about spear throw. So now I have to suffer the consequence of 2 damage. So I tried to use coordinated attack pattern. So that was actually the main reason why I wanted to put myself in this spot also, thinking that I could use a coordinated attack pattern to surround whoever comes in. But I didn't see that the spot below Achilles, it's a completely different color from the one that I'm sitting on. So I couldn't use coordinated attack pattern and I simply used it as a boost instead. So that's definitely the weakest card in Raptors deck. So more often than not, it's going to be used as a boost. So expecting an under Achilles helm here, and Clever Girl would have done 1 damage to Patroclus. Can't get away with that. But I was also hoping that with an additional action gain from Clever Girl, I will be able to run. But we saw a feint here. So quite often you want to use feint to either break a combo chain from a raptor or to prevent it from running away, because there's stuff like Clever Girl or there's disengage as well. So if you're a melee character, you can catch a raptor in this sense, especially if you have a lot of good cards in your hand for a next turn offense. Which it does. Getting an action with an attack. And here I think it's I made a tactical error. So he attacked first with the 4, defended with the decoy, so I took 1 damage. And for the second attack he did, I played an Eaten Alive, not expecting a test for weakness. So as Achilles, you don't usually want to play tests for weaknesses so early because they don't really do much damage. However, uh, if you have three of them, that means you'll most likely draw one of them early, and I think you can afford to use one early. And you probably don't want to use this on Patroclus because it's going to get attacks from Patroclus tends to get fainted. While attacks from Achilles doesn't tend to get fainted that much. So, so just imagine if I eaten alive the first brothers in arms, that would deal one damage to Achilles. And if I fainted this way, but since I just decided to take the 3 damage from Melander's assault. Here I took a big risk. So seeing that he didn't really have that many cards left in hand, and he already defended earlier with a feint instead of an under Achilles helm, and he hadn't drawn any new cards since then, I was kind of made a gamble, hoping that he didn't have under Achilles helm yet, and so I popped an eviscerate. Risky, but it paid off in this case because he only defended with a better harden, thus confirming he really didn't have under Achilles helm. And with better harden, he brought back test for weakness. Arguably, I think it would have been better to bring back a spear throw. So what's my next consideration here? Seeing that Achilles had the hand advantage and had one Raptor on very low health, probably needed to draw up, which was what I was doing. Making sure I was out of spear throw range also. So seeing the combination of cards in my hand, with working things out and a pack hunters, that was probably the next thing I had to do. So here I thought I protected my very weak Raptor. But we see a boost using a helm. And using the helm, using the heal as a boost, I think it's quite risky because, yeah, sure, it might give me an action, but 4 damage block is still 4 damage block. And one of Raptor's win condition is to run you out of defenses. So, well, if you are throwing away defenses yourself, that just makes the job easier for Raptors. So anyway, he comes in and finishes off my weak Raptor. So here I have to take another gamble again with working things out. So working things out is, I would consider one of the Raptor's strongest cards. In fact, it's the key to dealing a lot of damage, and you only have 2 of it, but if you can get it off early, ideally with 2 Raptors, it can do quite a chunk of damage, considering that it's 4 attack by itself already. Even if it gets fainted, you're probably doing what, 2 or 3 damage over it, which is always pretty decent. However, if he had an under Achilles helm here, I'll be doing quite a bit of damage to Patroclus instead. But again, they remember to try to bait it out. And he recycled his better harden. So yep, here I did, even though I was fainted, still did 3 damage, which was decent. So he used another heal to boost again. But thankfully I had a feint in hand to just counteract any annoying attacks from Patroclus. So time to build up a hand of cards again and to formulate my next attack. So one reason why I position myself does so in the top right corner is that this would set up a pretty good decoy. So if he ever has to go into melee range, and this also applies for range characters in this particular map, there's the potential to decoy and flank them from the back, thus pinning them in this small area. So as Raptors, you always want to be looking out for decoy opportunities, considering that you have 4 of it. And setting up decoys, I think it's one of the key things that you always need to consider when playing Raptors. It's a skill that you have to slowly build up and to always keep in mind. And sometimes I forget about it also. But threatening decoys, even when you don't have it in hand, positioning yourself in a certain way, it's, I think, a key skill to learn to play Raptors well. So I just wanted him to boost to get to me. My reason why I placed this Raptor here is I also wanted him to be within walking distance into this purple area. So another attack from Patroclus, fainted. And at least it took a boost from Achilles to pull this off also. So my hand was starting to get flooded with attack cards, and this meant that I had to go on the aggression pretty soon. And so instead of running away, I just decided to come in close and try to set up a decoy. Alright, here we see the decoy triggered. So looking at Achilles deck, I kind of thought that he was going to play his test for weakness, considering that if you remember, he actually played a better harder to bring it back much earlier. And so yes, I predicted it correctly. I took the first 1 damage and decoyed perfectly the second. So this was actually pretty risky. On hindsight, I got a second decoy here, so if I wanted a safe play, I would have, even expecting test for this, I would have played the decoy first. So, but there's still many other ways that Achilles could have got over this. So if he had attacked with a skirmish, so he would have won the combat. Or if he had attacked with something to do with Hermes, the one that allowed him to move. So if I were Achilles, that was the card I would probably be used to attack with instead of test for weakness. Because it's kind of obvious that I'm setting up a decoy trap here. So here's me trying to bait out the under Achilles helm again. So one reason I place the Raptor in between the weak Raptor in between Patroclus and Achilles also was actually in consideration of the clever girl I had in hand. So the idea was that even if the helm was played and triggered, I would still be this Raptor would still be adjacent to Achilles on at the top there, which would still give me an additional action, and I can try to perhaps eviscerate or disengage out of there. But unfortunately, it was fainted. But I mean, that was just the consideration of why I placed the Raptor up there instead of placing pinning myself, instead of placing that weak Raptor into the purple room also. So I still had one more action because my first attack was a Day Remembered, then a Clever Girl, which was fainted. And so looks like he was out of defenses, and an ambush pulls out the card that he just brought back with Better Harden. So imagine if he still had all the Achilles, he would have been much better for him here. Here, unfortunately, I had to eat a test for weakness. Predicted it wrongly, but oh well. So note how with Decoy, I also positioned the other Raptor in an annoying way, so that even if Achilles boosted his way out of there, he still wouldn't be able to get far. Seeing as I was running out of defenses, I've already played I think all my feints. A good number of decoys, running out of defenses already, so well, might as well just use the Raptor to take a swing at him, and he didn't have any defenses. So there you have it. Raptors somehow managed to get the game over to Achilles. I was lucky in the sense that under Achilles' helm wasn't drawn, so he only had about 12 cards or so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, about 12 cards left in his deck, and all his under Achilles' helm were all stuck here. But that also meant that he drew his powerful cards like the spear throws early, and he also drew all his Patroclus attacks quite early also. So thankfully, I also drew feints to counteract all those. And I also did my best to try to play around under Achilles' helm. So yep, there you have it. Raptors against Achilles. See you next time for the next AAR.